It's so good to finally be back. This never would have been possible had we not worked together. I thank you all.
Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to Final Fantasy II, where, Castle Fynn has been liberated, power has been restored, and generally speaking, well, we haven't exactly won the war just yet, but we have won a very decisive battle, which means all is relatively, well, for the time being.
But one thing still troubles me. Minwu left for Mysidia, but we've not heard from him since. It pains me to ask this of you so soon, especially after winning back our castle. Would you go to Mysidia? The valiant dragoons of Deist are no more. But you're with us now. Our hope rests in you. There is a place within this castle called the Mirror Chamber. It has the power to call wyverns. But the wyvern has yet to hatch. Mysidia is a land of sages. Without the help of their aid and their magic, defeating the Emperor will not be easy. I've heard that a spell, sometimes referred to as the ultimate magic, lies in the Mysidian Tower. Obtaining it requires 2 masks. The white mask rests beneath this very castle. You must recite an incantation spell to open the door that leads below. The words Ecce Tomas have been passed down from antiquity. Forgive me, I'm afraid I don't know the door's location. We could never have retaken Castle Fynn without your help. But there is one problem. Minwu still hasn't come back. Will you go to Mysidia and find out what's happened to him? The Mysidian Tower is rumored to house the Ultima Tome, a text containing the ultimate magic. With His Majesty gone, no one knows this castle better than Hilda. If she doesn't know, Paul just might. He is always calling himself the greatest crook in the world, after all. I'm certain it will prove invaluable in our struggle against the Emperor.
So, yeah, even though right around this point we pretty much end up finding the exact place that we need to find in order to get to the underground area, yeah, just for posterity's sake and, for giving some characters a bit more of a time to shine, yeah, just sort of heading down to meet Paul to find out what the door is, and squaddle, we're off on our next adventure in the dungeons of Castle Fynn. But yeah, everybody is pretty much happy-clappy at the moment because, they've finally reclaimed their home, but their loved ones are forever gone. Oh, blue. But yeah, for this part today, it's, well, yet another dungeon crawl, except this time in, well, Castle Fynn. So, yeah, we get to, explore a little bit of our, well, what's meant to be our true home, really, because, Firion, Maria, Guy, and Leon, this was very much their home, before it was, destroyed by, well, again, I wouldn't necessarily say destroyed, I mean, I guess that might be a bit of a discrepancy between the PlayStation 1 opening and, well, anything else, really, where, again, you recall at the beginning of the game, fire was raining down as the Emperor, like, it was destroying the land even before he had control of the Dreadnought or whatever, so, yeah, I guess the idea might be that, Firion, Maria, and Guy were either living in Goltria, or maybe one of the surrounding areas was, the location where they were living in Fynn, but in towards, like, more of an outskirts town area that was wiped off the map. I don't know, it's just a bit of speculation on my part, but either way, yeah, exploring around with a couple of the shops, and, again, now that it's no longer under Imperial law, yeah, they sell some pretty high-quality stuff, so Again, whether that's just sort of a factor of Fynn having grown stronger as, you know, they've got a well-stocked armory and, you know, their people have access to all their, you know, equipment again. Who knows really, but either way, we can get pretty pimped out for the journey and, you know, head back onto, well, finally explaining, you know, why I kind of jumped the gun a bit for, you know, getting to my city and doing whatever else. Yeah. The first mask you're meant to get is the white mask, then you're meant to go off and get the black mask, although I can't remember if I already have it at this stage. I'm gonna say no, because, yeah, that would probably kind of defeat the purpose. Again, I did mention beforehand that I did end up jumping the gun and tackled a dungeon earlier than I should have, so, yeah, whoop-de-doodle. But in that case, it's also a bit of an un-whoop-de-doodle, because we've still got a lot to explore anyway in that dungeon, so, no harm, no foul, I suppose. But, again, either way, yeah, that's pretty much all she wrote. As we continue to explore, Fynn unimpeded by soldiers going, "Rebel curs." Nothing happens. We have no one to revive, no one to live, no one to die. Just permanence in the void. Exdeath would like that. Firion, you old devil! How have you been? If you need to know where the secret door in Castle Fynn is, I'm your man. I don't suppose you could tell me what's inside this secret chamber? Just curious. A white mask? Doesn't sound particularly valuable. Nope, not interested, so I guess I'll tell you where the door is. Look in the far right corner of the audience chamber and right to the throne. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the sort of there for flavor text. You don't technically need to talk to Paul if you want to find out where it is. Because, I mean, again, if you'll remember, like, right before we encountered Godos, or whatever the hell that demon creature's name that was pretty much ruling Fynn in the stead of its proper leaders, yeah, you might be noticing that, again, whenever you see an exclamation point, like right there, yeah, that usually highlights something important going on, but, again, depending on the context and circumstance, you just can't quite access it. But, yeah, you might have also noticed that similar thing in Paul's room right there. That actually comes down to a bit of an important thing that some people may, on the odd occasion, miss, based upon, well, certain levels of importance, in regards to a sword that can make the final boss of the game a complete... well, actually, yeah, it does make him a complete joke, but that's neither here nor there in this case, but, I mean, it is arguably one of the best weapons in the game. I mean, again, I'd call it the ultimate weapon, but the game also does have an ultimate weapon with, again, in similar note to Final Fantasy 1, and I believe, similar in nature to Final Fantasy 9 as well, unless, of course, you're counting Excalibur 2, Excalibur harder. Yeah, instead we get Excalibur 1. Yeah, where do we get that? Ooh, well, you'll just have to find out. But yeah, we're not exactly prepared to deal with the underground basement of spookiness as we heal ourselves up and prepare. Black and yellow, I don't know, we're interrupted by a battle. So yeah, I mean, I guess either they haven't cleared out all the monsters in the lower areas, or, I don't know, purely because of, like, magical shit, that's probably where monsters like to spawn. I'm gonna assume this is really just sort of having gameplay for gameplay's sake, but I mean, at the same time, I'm wondering if Princess Hilda is wondering why, like, a lot of her handmaidens and servants have disappeared whenever they went into the basement to get, like, a casket of wine or something. I don't know, it sort of seems like something to be concerned about, but acquiesce, I suppose. In any case, though, yeah, I mean, beforehand I did mention that, you know, the upper levels of Castle Fynn were part dungeon, part home base. This is where a lot of the dungeon aspects really sort of begin to, well, work in, really. Again, you've got rooms to explore, treasure chests to find, and, compared to some of the other labyrinths in the game, again, it's not too terrible, but likewise, it does still suffer from a few familiar elements, you know, the fooled you rooms where you just have to run, turn around, and then end up getting ambushed by monsters. But again, that's pretty much par for the course, really, so, yeah. All that aside, though, like, I mean, again, zombies, were-rats, death flowers, and a couple of, like, stalagmites. I think they seem to be a mixture of the two, based on, what I'm sort of been seeing of it, but whatever. Fantasy enemies haunt the place, go clean them out. fact, I'm starting to think that perhaps the White Mask telling us to get it down here was a bit of an excuse, a bit of a help, and also a help for possibly Hilda and Gordon to say, "Oh yes, Firion, because we can't be asked cleaning the basement, do be sure to eliminate all the monsters. We're tired of having to feed the feudal serfs to them to stop them from raising up against their masters and eating us for their dinner." Yes, indeedy. Again, quite a few battles were cut down for time around this sort of area, so... Yeah, I mean, to kind of talk about my general ethos in regards to battles, which, again, may have mentioned before, may have not. My memory is not what it used to be. But, yeah, some I'm leaving in. The main ones I'm usually leaving in are either some of the more interesting encounters where I show some abilities, or, again, if I'm encountering a new enemy that we haven't seen before, or a, you know, different enemy variety pattern. That makes things a little bit more interesting, so... that least, really. So, onwards and upwards as we continue our search for the White Mask, and then the Black Mask, who's a Batman villain. Although, again, I'm not really too sure what came... actually, well, again, not that it's really the same sort of concept anyway, but, I don't know, Black Mask, I mean, for Roman Sionis as the villain, I want to say 70s? I don't know. I should probably replay Batman Arkham City and kind of see when they have, like, appeared in the comics in Dick Fuckers 1969 or whatever. Oh my god, a gigantic brain! And another gigantic brain! I believe the Charger is the red variant, but yeah, the red variants are a little bit more trigger happy with their magical abilities, so yeah, be sure to sap them with their health and yeah, lay off the smackdown using physical attacks. Not really too heavily think tank of you know, a gameplay system, which, again, I suppose if I could talk about turn-based gaming in and of itself, like, I mean, again, a lot of... I don't want to say a lot of current-day audiences probably wouldn't be able to get to grips with it, but I mean, it is the sort of thing where... I mean, again, it's either as think tank or as simple and easy to use as you really want it to be. Like, I mean... it's something I kind of likened actually to Knights of the Old Republic, which again, though it does work on a similar sort of like D20 system, not exactly turn-based, but, you know, based on similar mathematic principles of, like, oh no, my character has a +3 to his dexterity, which means he's better at handling swords or some shit, and, you know, then you can utilize your demolition skill to do whatever, really. Again, all that really matters is crunching the numbers, really. Apart from that, the gameplay is really just sort of as simple as, you know, attack, use special move, use magical powers, and then, you know, use an item or something or other to do damage to your enemies, heal yourself up. Kind of whatever, really, which I suppose is part of the reason why Final Fantasy, you know, as a game and a series caught on with... well, that's kind of the thing, really. I want to say caught on with kids, because, you know, I mean, this was still... I mean, particularly, you know, 1988, it's up till about, like, you know, the early PlayStation era, you know, maybe late Mega Drive era, for being generous. Was around about the points where, you know, teenagers really sort of started to, well, really get more into games outside of, you know, the typical sort of, dude, I'm gonna wait for Pac-Man while I steal some drinks, dude, with a fake ID! But, yeah, the salient point I'm trying to make here is that the relative simplicity of, you know, simple commands, you know, utilizing magic or just going full-on attacking with a lot of nerdy children back in the day was probably part of the reason why these games sort of took off. You know, in tandem with the, you know, having epic stories in a kid-friendly-ish sort of way. Again, given Nintendo's guidelines at the time, you know, read calling, you know, pubs cafes, because, oh, you know, having talks of, like, you know, village-wide genocide in Final Fantasy IV is well and okay, but having an alcohol reference, oh, you've gone too far. But, I don't know, it's just like a weird level of censorship that, quite frankly, hasn't gone away even today. I don't know. I mean, it's simultaneously, everybody's got a different level of sensitivity, so... whatever. Maybe we live in interesting times, it's just a matter of the fact that, you know, there was a bunch of wacky censorship in the past as there is in today's generation, so... goddamn, man. Life is quite bizarre, my dearie. Yeah, potions aren't quite cutting it like they used to. Oh my god, we made a brain scared! But yeah, also making use out of the haste ability. Again, to kind of go into what that does, well, again, you might not see the results immediately on screen, but haste basically increases the amount of attacks you do per turn, and yeah, I mean, I believe, I think it actually gets probably the best use in Final Fantasy X from what I remember, because again, given the way in which its battle system sort of sets up the party with a level of attacks, again, if you have Titus equipped with haste, Titus, fuck, I keep on forgetting the pronunciation between the two. Pretty sure it's Titus in 10, Titus in Kingdom Hearts. Whatever, equip Titus with haste, and yeah, he pretty much gets to have multiple chances to attack, and yeah, an ability he can actually get pretty early on in that game, and comes in very handy. Oh no, it's the... Oh, wait, is that stalagmite or stalactite? My eyes are... Fucking oath, my eyes are starting to go. Oh, dearie me. Solidus-Skully is getting older. But yeah, enough beating around the bush, it's time for some more gameplay, talking, discussion, whatever things here. And really to sort of talk about one of the new spells that Firion has under his possession, which is Aura. You might not be seeing it cast, well, right now really, but yeah, Aura pretty much adds damage to physical attacks based upon your successful hit rate, so... Yeah, I mean, again, depending on how well your character is able to hit the enemies, yeah, they end up doing a little bit more damage per attack, so... Yeah, you might see it as a little bit redundant given that Berserk serves a very similar purpose in increasing your character's physical attack power, but... Yeah, Aura seems to be based more on hit rate, which, again, is determined by a random stochastic series of dice rolls, whereas, you know, Berserk seems to, well, just power your characters up regardless, so... Yeah. Bit of a strange, a bit of dissonance, really. I mean, again, if I suppose I could compare it to anything, which fittingly is also in Final Fantasy II and, well, I mean, I suppose perhaps a few other games in the Final Fantasy series would actually be kind of the pointlessness between the Busna and Isuna spell. Again, the Busna specifically being the uselessness of, you know, the curing spells, because, yeah, what Busna is meant to do is pretty much cure status ailments after the battle, so, like, say for example, if you get poisoned, or, you know, one of the characters has, like, the petrification status inflicted upon them by, you know, again, if they were, you know, injured by a character using break, or, you know, by cockatrices, which can petrify you for some reason. Yeah, Busna can pretty much cure you after the battle, but by that same token, though... Oh, by the way, there's a usage of Death 13. That's glorious, we'll be seeing a bit more of that. But yeah, I mean, the difference between Busna and Isuna is that Isuna you can pretty much use it to cure right away, whereas Busna is pretty much used after the battle, at which point, again, unless of course you're running low on items, you probably wouldn't really need. I mean, honestly, like, I mean, by this point in the game, you should be earning more than enough, you know, cashola to really sort of make up the difference, so... Yeah, it just seems like a bit of a waste of ether that could be better used towards more powerful offensive or defensive spells while you're in the middle of battle, so... Yeah, I mean, Busna just comes across as kind of a bit useless, to be honest. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Why the fuck am I thinking of songs from over 10 years ago that sucked? Killer romanticists. Oh, what horrible, horrible fate have befallen us. Well, I mean, then again, I suppose seeing bugs down in, you know, dingy, dirty dungeon areas at least makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, they're meant to be, like, some of the more powerful-ish... Well, sort of powerful-ish more creatures. I mean, they're pretty much just sort of, well, resistant to shite, really. Again, your best bet about taking out the killer mantis is pretty much using Blizzard. Because, as we all know, bugs cannot survive in the cold and the dark, dingy areas. But yeah, Blizzard is pretty much a one-stop shop. Either that or set them on fire, electrocute them. Whatever, they're pretty much weak to a lot of magical stuff, so just take them down. They're ooey bugs, dude! Yes, kill them. Kill them now. Kill them before they mate, and then... I believe are also one of the species that actually end up eating their partner after mating, so at least I believe so, but yeah. The universe of bugs, it's pretty fucking disgusting and also quite scary. Is it any wonder why, like, so many alien species or, like, fantasy monsters have been based upon them? Those were the days. Yeah, see, he fears our power. That's why he ran away. But again, I suppose to talk turkey as we continue looking around this dungeon, which is pretty much all that we're going to be doing for the rest of this part in order to seek out the White Mask and whatever, is actually to kind of note some differences between the PS1 and, you know, the Pixel Remaster version, which, while I wouldn't exactly say the Pixel Remaster is a faithful one-for-one translation of the original NES version, I mean, especially considering the fact that, again, in the NES original, a lot of the character sprites were sort of slightly altered variant from Final Fantasy I's version, of its cast and characters, with, a few slight alterations on the model to make them slightly unique. Yeah, I mean, the Pixel Remaster wanted to stick as close to, well, again, the NES version as much as possible, to some extent. Meanwhile, the PS1 version and, I suppose the WonderSwan ports of Final Fantasy II, they did have a little bit more of a distinctive art style. Again, mainly because it had, slightly more detailed character portraits, and a few cutscenes where they showed, different details of, the Dreadnought taking off, or stuff like that, really, so... Again, a bit strange, and I suppose, I guess people who did it, well, because, I mean, again, considering that, for a lot of Western territories, Final Fantasy II via the PS1 was pretty much the main way people were playing it for years. Yeah, I suppose it's a bit of a sign that we might never see that version of the game ever again, unless you're willing to emulate, I suppose, but... I don't know, either way, I mean, this did also come with a few, name translation fuckeries, again, I changed a guy's name to Gus, for some reason. Why, I have no real idea. But I mean, even in that case, I think that was just more down to, I don't know, weird Japanese sort of translations. I mean, to kind of go into more of the naming scheme, again, in the English, well, one of the earlier English ideas to name some characters, because again, Japanese being that you can fit more letters of kanji to create a name than you can with, English letters and text. Yeah, Firion's original name was going to be Fyrionel, I guess meant to be pronounced like Lionel or something. And, yeah, Guy was meant to be Gus, Layla, Rayla. Again, a bunch of weird shit like that, really, but... Yeah, I really don't know what to tell you. Just bizarre differences. Why they exist, nobody knows. But then again, I suppose it being the PS1 era, I suppose that was part of the reason why they were taking liberties in a bit of a, Aerith kind of way. Queest, really. I don't really... either or. Who gives a fuck? A rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. Unless it smells like shit. Then it will be... shit. Man, this basement is fucking rowdy, man. Everybody's... they've got fucking stalactites, they've got fucking... ogres in there, they've got fucking turtles. Man, this castle has everything. No wonder the Emperor wanted it so bad. He was hoping to dine on turtle soup. Oh yes, Blink, you can't hit what you can't see. But yeah, I mean, again, I suppose realistically though, again, apart from the little after image, I'm guessing Blink is sort of meant to be like a bit of a weird sort of ninjutsu kind of thing, where it's meant to be a bit of a training the eyes, so again, your perception's looking at one thing, but in reality they're doing another. I mean, it is actually a bit of a tested, combat technique, both, not just by, soldiers, warriors, or whatever in years past, but, yeah, also by magicians. I mean, again, if you remember that coin behind the ear trick, again, pay close attention to where their hands are going, because, yeah, again, you're sort of meant to be distracted by, the awe and the wonder of the magic, and, if you're wondering where, the doves and the milk and whatever that they make disappear end up going, just pay close attention. And then shout it out in the middle of the show, so you can be that douchebag that goes like, "It's not real, it's stage, I hate magic!" And then you can make all the children cry. As I cried when he ruined the magic. I never believed in magic again. Monsters! But yeah, epithets about magic aside. Oh, if only I had that warp spell. Then I could deal with my enemies, and I wouldn't ruin the magic, because I'd ruin them by warping them to the void. But now we got the power staff! It's like, what's-his-face's, Magic Pole from Monkey Magic. He knew every magic trick under the sun would later be ripped off by almost every story there ever was. Like Monkey Magic, Dragon Ball Z, Sun Wukong, Enslaved Odyssey to the West. I miss Monkey Magic. I used to play that, I mean, again, you probably heard me reference it a couple of times, but again, I used to play that shit all the fucking time on ABC when I was a kid, and God, I fucking miss it, to be completely honest. It was, oh man, it had to be seen to be believed. Fucking catchy as hell theme song, though. But in any case, enough talking about Journey to the West and its many, many derivatives and sequels. Now it's here to talk about the finest of Fantasy II, which is fun. There will be nothing there, but as we try and walk away, oh no, we've failed. By the way, I don't know if it's just me, but I swear to god, like, there's an increased chance of monster encounters if you use the run ability by holding down the circle button. So again, I don't know if monsters are just more likely to appear the faster you go, or again, if it's just more down to the game, you know, calculating like a set amount of steps you're meant to take before you enter into a battle state. You know, in terms of how the game is programmed to sort of flag like, okay, take random determined number, okay, take 5 steps, monster encounter. Okay, next round, take 16 steps, monster encounter. And that's confuse. I don't really use it very often, but as I mentioned before, and will reiterate again, yeah, basically, if the monsters are confused, they'll pretty much turn on each other, maybe attack one another or attack themselves, as you're seeing right there, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it is a mildly amusing spell to use, but I mean, again, if you can inflict damage just as well against them, then confuse kind of seems a wee bit persona non grata, really. I mean, again, I mean, if they kind of went with the whole direction of again, something that I mentioned earlier, where you know, Mimu was envisioned to be like a pacifist kind of monk character who wouldn't use violence against his enemies, I could see, like, again, maybe if you had like a solo section with him, that, you know, you'd have to use confuse in order to defeat your enemies, or either that or find ways to, you know, passively put them to sleep using the sleep spell, or, you know, sort of evade enemies or something or other. Maybe that could be a potential use for it, but I don't know. I mean, I guess in some ways it might be seen as just sort of forcing a mechanic on you that you otherwise wouldn't really use all that often, apart from maybe like one segment. I don't know. Again, it's an odd design philosophy, especially in an RPG, to sort of determine how exactly you utilize your powers. I mean, do you force people to go through a bullshitey section simply for variety's sake? Or do you just stay the course, but, you know, have the game end up becoming repetitive later on, if you don't know what you're doing? I don't know. Again, a game developer problem that they've struggled with since the dawn of time, I suppose, but either way, it is something to think about, really. Because, I mean, again, there are games that do have, like, a fairly consistent quality of, you know, doing one thing exceptionally well, but then getting old after a while. You know, both for games good and bad. So I don't know, really. It's, yeah, it is a question. Is this the right way? It is, but my curiosity gets the better of me, and I just decide, you know what, fuck it, I have to explore the other doors, because if I don't, then people will be wondering what the fuck's going on, what's inside these rooms, apart from nothing, just there to sap your morale away. But yeah, I mean, again, this is really just sort of me showing it off for solidarity's sake, for curiosity's sake, and really just, well, again, I guess to ensure that any viewers who are interested in playing Final Fantasy II won't waste their time, unless of course it's been a while since they watched the commentary, in which case they'll pretty much go a wee bit doolally and then forget and then run into the same mistakes. But yes, we finally have the white mask and can teleport out of this dingy basement area, so on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, and I'll see you next time as we hunt down the black mask.